Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Questions, Small Steps. My name is Amanda and I'm so glad that you could join me today. So piggybacking off of my last video about when I talked about dating my current amazing boyfriend and how he happens to be Jewish and all the different ways that he has inspired me and changed my life, that rose questions in talking to other people who have viewed the video and who know my history. They wanted more information on what it's like to date other men from other religious backgrounds. So today I'm going to oblige and I am going to share with you in this video my experiences from dating a man who was Muslim. So in my personal life, I have never really found men who happen to be white or Caucasian attractive. I have always been more drawn to men of other backgrounds, other ethnicities, other cultures, there was always something that drew me to the other cultures. So at one time I did date a gentleman who was from the Muslim background. Now the caveat to that, this gentleman was born in Egypt, and while his actions and his practices tell me he is Muslim, he never admitted being Muslim to me. It was interesting. So I'm going to talk about my experiences, and I'm going to talk about my experiences really regarding three different aspects. So in that relationship, what did I experience as far as actions? What did I experience as far as dress, from what he dressed as to what he expected me to dress as, things like that. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the cultural things that came up in our dating. You may end up dating someone who happens to be of Muslim descent, or maybe you're just curious. And this is just my experience. So we're going to look at it from three different aspects. So the gentleman that I was dating, he, like I said, he grew up in Egypt and then he came to the United States. And he was a very hard worker. It was a very, very physical relationship in my experience. There was a lot of aggression. There was a lot of physical manipulation of me. There was a lot of emotional manipulation. There was a lot of guilt and a lot of, this is what I want, and if you love me, you'll do this. A lot of like that almost hostage taking role, and that was felt by me. That was also witnessed towards his daughters. Just the way he spoke to them was not very kind necessarily. He would get angry very rapidly, and he would start shouting and screaming, and he would get in people's faces. He was taller than me, but I'm rather short, so that's not easy. That's not a hard thing to do. So he liked to assert his dominance by making you feel inferior. And that's what I felt most frequently. There was a lot of control. And if I wouldn't do what he wanted or said what he wanted or responded the way he wanted, there was a lot of guilt that went into it. Now, I don't know if all men who are Muslim react that way in a relationship, but he was very hot-tempered. It took one small thing to not go the way he wanted, and he would blow up. And there were repercussions to be had because of it. I can remember if we were home alone, he would act one way. He would be very touchy-feely, and then if I tried to put boundaries or like ask for some space, he would become very offended by that. That again, I'm not certain if that was just him or if that's all men who are Muslim, but this is my experience. Another thing that I noted, it was interesting, and this is what tipped me off to the fact that he very well may be Muslim, was he would pray throughout the day. He wouldn't do the 5 prayers that are typically aligned with Muslims and the Islamic faith. He would do typically about 3 times. Maybe 4. He typically did morning, noon, lunchtime-ish, around dinner time, and then before bed he would do 4 prayers. So really he was only missing 1. He didn't do a sunrise prayer to my knowledge. But during that time he would go and he would do wudu and clean himself, and then he would do his prayers, and then he would come over. He was, like I said, very touchy-feely. He was very, very strange about when prayer times were coming. He would want all kinds of affection and things like that, but I was not allowed to hold his hand or sit too close to him when prayer time was like within a half an hour. It was strange, and it was that constant like push and pull type thing. It was strange. A lot of manipulation in that relationship. As far as dress goes, typically people who are practicing Muslims will be very modest in their dress, and he did not dress in traditional Muslim garb or outfits. He dressed in normal American clothes. He would wear jeans, he would wear sweaters, he would wear track pants, like that. It was just normal stuff for him. He liked to look good, and he was always asking if what he was wearing was okay fashion-wise. It was interesting. He didn't have the best fashion sense, and not saying that I do either. It was just interesting to see a man who was so concerned about his appearance. As far as what he expected of me for dress, he really didn't have any expectations at all. He didn't say anything about anything that I was wearing, but he didn't like to go out very frequently. He preferred to not interact with people. He preferred to stay at home. And when I say home, I mean his home, because he didn't have any desire to come to my home, and that quite honestly was okay with me. But it was interesting. It was almost like he felt more comfortable having more control by staying in his environment. It made me nervous whenever we would go out, because he would say things that just seemed hateful and very negative, and that I wasn't used to that. So, for example, he would say all the time that all religions are stupid, and anyone who practiced a religion was stupid, and they were just sheep who didn't have any brains in their head, and stupid. That's what he would say repeatedly. And then he would, if you tried to question or have a discussion with him about it, he would say, is there something wrong with your brain? Is there something, do you have a problem in your head? He would start picking at you as an individual as to why you wouldn't take what he said as law. Why you wouldn't just do whatever he said because he said it. But he didn't have any questions, qualms about what I wore. He never said anything, but he was very, very physical, very aggressive verbally as well. In the traditions, like I said, he did do the prayers multiple times a day, but as far as food, he didn't necessarily observe the laws of halal. While I was with him, we didn't typically have any pork, but that's not necessarily anything uncommon. I didn't eat a whole bunch of pork, but there was quite a lot of shellfish he liked to cook. He liked to cook. He used a lot of spices. He was a bigger gentleman, and his portion sizes were huge. Even his daughters, who were under the age of 10, he would take big serving bowls and have it be their like cereal bowl, and he would get angry and frustrated when they wouldn't eat it all. That was just part of who he was. But in that household, he still celebrated the common traditions of the United States. So they still celebrated the Independence Day. They still celebrated Thanksgiving and Halloween and Christmas and all that. To my knowledge, he didn't do fasting days, which is quite common in Muslim traditions. But that's what he did. It was interesting. My takeaway from that relationship was, if you happen to be dating a Muslim man, they are very protective of what is theirs. They like to have some sense of control. They like to be the lead in the relationship, in the household. They like to exert their dominance, and they don't, in my experience, they don't necessarily care if you have a differing opinion. Now, again, this is just my experience. It may be completely different for other people, but that is my experience dating a Muslim man.